What's up, interwebs? It's me, Killa, and today I'm here to review Battle Chasers Nightwar for the Xbox One. Let's get started. Battle Chasers is a turn-based JRPG experience that, on one hand, reminds you of games like the classics, such as Final Fantasy, and even newer games like Earthlock, of which I reviewed last year, boom. But what it does differently than some of the more recent games of this ilk, and arguably makes it land on the better end of the JRPG spectrum, is incorporate more modern commonalities like crafting and fishing, and even blends randomized dungeons into the mix, with modifiable difficulties that enable you to challenge yourself for the chance of better loot. But with all these features, how do they mesh together? And with so many JRPGs available, is this worth your time? Hopefully, I can answer those questions and more throughout the review. Also, time for a quick shameless subscriber plug. Yeah. If you like this review, or any other reviews or videos on my channel, be sure to subscribe and share my channel or reviews with your lovely, beautiful friends and moderately handsome grandmothers. Moving on! The game starts with a nice Star Wars-y info crawl that fills you in on some core details on the struggles at hand, and gives you some backstory on the characters involved, and then throws you right into the game. Things get rolling pretty quickly, and if you've played JRPGs or even normal turn-based RPGs, you'll immediately slide into the combat rhythm. Each character has some basic attacks that require no resource to enact, and then you'll have more flashy skills that not only highlight the areas your characters specialize in, like healing or offensive abilities, but require the use of mana. You'll eventually unlock access to satisfying and well-paced limit break style super abilities, in which a single meter generates throughout combat, and you can select a character's ability to use, which will consume the meter, and you have to start filling it again. Lastly, there's overcharge. When you use certain attacks, you gain overcharge as a resource that will contribute to the use of other specialized abilities. All of these aspects roll into combat through the beginning hours of the story quite seamlessly, and come into the fray at a natural pace. Each character unlocks new abilities as they level, and at level 6, you gain access to each character's passive skill tree that will enable you to focus and hone your abilities on one of the two specialties your character has, or even a little of both. For instance, this bad tanky healer, yeah, a tankish healer, bringing those pally vibes, has a skill tree that focuses on the healing side of his abilities, and one that has an offensive focus. And if you so desire, you can hybridize and add a few points into each, giving you a more blended playstyle that's more adaptable at the sacrifice of not being a super great healer or a super great tanky damage dealer. And the game does a great job of giving you the freedom to build each character the way you want, both with these skill trees and in the way you equip your gear. Beyond your skill trees and core skills, the character progression is heavily stat-based. The gear you choose to equip influences how much damage your characters do, their health, resistances, and any combination in between. And you're constantly finding loot of different quality, and random items that you can use to craft new gear to better equip your characters and experiment with what works for you and what doesn't. The quality of the gear is indicated by what is now a standard color scheme, thanks WoW, and there's even a system built into the crafting that enables you to pump more crafting items into the recipes so that you can increase your chances of crafting better quality gear with better stats. The gear you equip is also represented visually on your characters, which is sort of a deal breaker for me, because it not only adds the sense of progression you feel as you're getting newer and better gear, but it gives you something new and exciting to look at as you stare at your character for hours and hours, making games like these easier to play for extended periods of time. The graphics have a hand-drawn, high-contrast, colorful aesthetic, while somehow also managing to be sort of dark and foreboding. It's very similar to the game Darkest Dungeon, especially the overworld map that you use to navigate the land. It's a blend of 2D and 3D that works well together and gives the game an authentic storybook feel, especially when you're watching a 2D cutscene that is, more often than not, combined with high-quality voice acting. I'm really a big fan of the soundtrack, and I knew I would love it from the outset when the main title theme pulled me in with a beautiful and haunting string-based composition a la Diablo 2's music, but kind of infused with a subtle tinge of industrial music, or, I don't know, like modern pop or something, I don't know. But it gives it a driving beat. It's really cool stuff, and the music and sound design stay consistent throughout. Battles are random, but not random encounter. As in, on the overworld map, you'll see an icon that indicates what type of enemy you'll fight when you pass over the icon, rather than being popped into unseen random encounters that are common in JRPGs. And as you go into a dungeon or into a town and come back out, those encounters do change. You'll see different enemies scattered around the map. While in dungeons and explorable areas, you'll actually see the enemies roaming around and can charge into them to start a battle. Hey spiders! you. There are also plenty of small, unexpected, choose-your-own-adventure style choices that you can make that alter the story or dialogue in mostly minor ways that add to the authenticity of the experience. Like choosing to tear the sign off of a building and hearing the owner of the shop mention it later, or by reading a storybook that you find in a dungeon, and depending on how you answer the questions, you get a temporary buff. It's little things like this that make games not only feel more unique, but give the world a more authentic and lived-in feel. There are things I didn't have time to discuss, like the bestiary, that can add stat bonuses and rewards as you fight creatures and achieve goals, the battle arena, abilities that you can use while exploring dungeons, or even the unique vendors that add a lot to the game's atmosphere. But overall, this game is really solid. The pieces all come together surprisingly well, and I would say that it never really falls short of anything that it attempts to do. It is an impressive first attempt at a new series, one that combines the sum of its parts into a cohesive and professionally produced game with the feel and atmosphere of an indie game. With randomized dungeons and different ways to customize your characters via skill trees and stat-based gear, the game gives you plenty of reasons to come back. The dungeons are pretty easy though, and I'm glad they included difficulty modifiers. To me, the second difficulty makes the dungeon just challenging enough without being frustrating, while the initial difficulty feels a little too easy. I just wish this adventure had lasted a little bit longer. In the likelihood that the game does well, I'm already looking forward to chasing battles and fighting the Nightwar again. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are amazing as always. I'll see you next time. Later!